Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing climate change, abrupt climate change, ongoing escalation of global warming, environmental destruction, and all the lovely consequences that that brings. I'm going to start off with a few short comments from the last couple of videos. First one is from Real Eyes, Realize, Real Lies, or Real Eyes, Realize, Real Lies. Insects are the base of the terrestrial land-based food chain. Phytoplankton is the base of the marine food chain, as well as providing oxygen. Insects provide a myriad of services that make life possible. Every direction one chooses to look, mass die-offs are ubiquitous the world over. It's obvious that the food chain is morphing into the extinction chain. The liberal mantra states we still have time. We can still aim the bullet after we have pulled the trigger. These processes we have set in motion are out of our control now. Temporarily, we can save this or that species, but it's only momentary. We have created this perfect storm. The externalities are closing in from every direction. It's the age of consequences in the land of illusions. Homo hubris has reached his peak, and down the bell curve we go. Modern science says the sun is the past, the earth is the present, and the moon is the future. From an incandescent mass we have originated, and to a frozen mass we shall turn. Merciless is the law of nature, and rapidly and irresistibly we are drawn to our doom. That's a quote from Nikola Tesla. When we remember we are all mad, the mysteries disappear and life stands explained. That's a quote from Mark Twain. And the last one is society's collective madness is what we call sanity by R.D. Laing. Love that one. Great comment from Realize. I'm going to read one more short one from Timothy Martin, who always gives great updates from Oregon. Kevin, in Oregon, all the bugs are gone. I have not seen a moth in years. I spend a lot of time on the Rogue River. All the bats and swallows are gone. The salmon that I love need insects for their young to eat on their journey to the Pacific. Oh, by the way, the Pacific is dead. All starfish are dead, etc. Thank you, Timothy Martin. I'm going to move on to a story about salmon. This is from November 26th. Another tipping point breached. Salmon have disappeared in Scotland. Not a single salmon caught during the entire season. This is from the Big Wobble. It used to be the best salmon fishing in the world, but now global warming is being blamed for Scotland's worst salmon season in living memory. Some beats on famous rivers like the Spey and the Nith recorded not a single salmon caught during the entire season. Just 2 salmon were caught on the River Fyne in Argyll this year, where once more than 700 were caught each season. The number of fish caught by anglers has been so low that some estates have stopped selling permits for once popular beats because there is no fish to catch. Tourism has been hit, sales of salmon tackle have slumped, and gillies have lost their job. Experts believe rising temperatures blamed on global warming have badly hit the salmon's feeding grounds, with related changes in current patterns also affecting their migration. Roger Brooke, director of the Argyll Fisheries Trust, said salmon are in decline everywhere, but they're declining more on the west coast of Scotland, and they're declining more the further down the west coast you go. It's dreadful now in Argyll. It's a crisis in Argyll. I don't know whether it's too late now to put it right. This year's cold spring and summer heat wave created the perfect storm for poor fishing conditions, but experts believe the steep decline in numbers since the 1960s is deep-rooted and warn the future is bleak. Survival rates for salmon at sea have fallen as low as 3%, with global warming and ocean fishing fleets among the likely causes. Professor Ken Whalen A leading salmon specialist investigating the downturn said, absolutely, there's a crisis in salmon fishing. What we have now is a situation where you're looking at very modest numbers of fish coming back, and you really can't afford to lose any from any kind of man-made effects. Andrew Flitcroft, the editor of the Trout and Salmon magazine, said, this has been undoubtedly the worst season I've witnessed in my lifetime. In January 2017, the collapse of Alaska's salmon fishing caught the headlines. The federal government issued a disaster declaration for Alaska's pink salmon fishery and several other salmon and crab fisheries along the West Coast, including, I believe, Oregon and California. Governor Bill Walker requested the declaration after the 2016 pink salmon harvests in Kodiak, Prince William Sound, Chignik, and Lower Cook Inlet came in far below forecast, and Alaska Journal of Commerce reported. The estimated value of Kodiak's catch in 2016 was about $2 million compared to a 5-year average of $14.6 million. The disaster declaration granted by U.S. Secretary of Commerce Penny Pritzker on Wednesday gives Kodiak and other Alaska fisheries the ability to seek disaster relief assistance from Congress because of the unexpected large decreases in salmon returns. Imagine if the human population fell by 60%. Wildlife populations have declined by 67% in less than 50 years. The Living Planet Report 2018. So that's a link to another article, but very frightening article from the Big Wobble. Another article from The Guardian, past 4 years, hottest on record, data shows. World running out of time to combat climate change, warns a meteorological organization. Global temperatures have continued to rise in the past 10 months, with 2018 expected to be the 4th warmest year on record. Average temperatures around the world so far this year were nearly 1°C above pre-industrial levels. Extreme weather has affected all continents, while the melting of sea ice, glaciers, and rises in sea levels continue. The past 4 years have been the hottest on record. The 20 warmest have occurred in the past 22 years. The warming trend is unmistakable and shows we are running out of time to tackle climate change, according to the World Meteorological Organization, which on Thursday published its provisional statement on the state of the climate in 2018. This article is from today, by the way. The WMO warned that on current trends, warming could reach 3°C to 5°C by the end of the century. These are more than just numbers, said Elena Manankova, the WMO Deputy Secretary General. Every fraction of a degree of warming makes a difference to human health and access to food and fresh water, to the extinction of animals and plants, to the survival of coral reefs and marine life. The world is committed to keep warming to no more than 2°C above such levels, with an aspiration to limit rises to 1.5°C, which the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, has said will cause the dieback of coral reefs, sea level rises, and extreme weather in many regions. Greenhouse gas levels were also recently found to be at record levels, and a UN report this week said the world must triple its emissions reductions efforts to stay within 2°C, and to stay within 1.5°C, those efforts need to be 5 times greater. The IPCC found that continued rise in greenhouse gas emissions over the next 12 years could result in a breaching of the 1.5°C limit. Yes, indeed. On Monday, the Met Office said summer temperatures in the UK could be 5°C hotter by 2070, making this year's heat wave the norm for the future, while winters could get much wetter. London could become increasingly vulnerable to storms and flooding owing to sea level rises, with the water level in the capital likely to rise by 1.15 meters by the end of the century. Going to continue reading. Pardon me. WMO found that the extent of Arctic sea ice in 2018, which was much lower than normal, with a maximum in March, the 3rd lowest on record, and the September minimum, the 6th lowest. The oceans have been absorbing record or near record amounts of heat at certain periods of the year. Started with a weak La Nina event, but by October, there were signs of a return to El Nino conditions, which can raise global temperatures further. There were a greater number of violent storms than usual, including 70 tropical cyclones in the Northern Hemisphere, compared with a long-term average of 53. Storms brought devastation to the Mariana Islands, the Philippines, Vietnam, the Korean Peninsula, and Tonga. while Hurricanes Florence and Michael caused substantial damage in the U.S. Wildfires raged in Greece, Canada, California, and other areas, while floods devastated Kerala in India and displaced more than 1.4 million people. Japan also experienced serious flooding, as did East Africa. Pateri Talas, the Secretary General of the WMO, a leading authority on climate change, said, "We are not on track to meet climate targets and rein in temperature increases. If we exploit all known fossil fuel reserves, the temperature will rise. The temperature rise will be considerably higher. We are the first generation to fully understand climate change and the last generation to be able to do something about it." Manankova added that every effort to reduce greenhouse gases and the impacts of climate change was worthwhile. Every bit matters, she said, citing the harm done by temperature rises to every aspect of life, including economic productivity, food security, glacier melt, and water supplies in the future of low-lying islands and coastal communities. I'm going to link this below, as well as the other one. For those that follow climate change, we are seeing just a huge number of reports, articles, studies, data, information coming in that obviously things are progressing much faster than expected, and things are worse than expected, or worse than we thought they were going to be at this time. For those that don't follow climate change, it started to crack into the mainstream. There are reports on mainstream media channels. I heard something on Fox News the other day. They were actually talking about climate change, and I was aghast. But it's happening, and I'm starting to see, like, on my Facebook timeline, people, sharing articles about climate change, and just kind of like with the "what do we do" question. And I try to jump in and answer the best that I can, but it's starting to dawn on people that something is very, very wrong. Hopefully will start dawning on people that if we're going to take some action, we got to take some action. It can be overwhelming. The entire problem is obviously global and massive. Lastly, I'm gonna, just harp on what a great, as in not great guy, Governor Jerry Brown is. Governor Brown signs bill allowing utility companies to move fire-related costs to customers. This is from September 21st. With an eye toward destructive wildfires, California's most immediate climate emergency, Governor Jerry Brown took action on Friday to broadly expand state prevention efforts while allowing utility companies to shift some fire-related costs to their customers. Well, I guess, somebody's got to bear the cost, right? The far-reaching proposal signed by Brown boosts government fire protection efforts by $1 billion over the next 5 years, providing funds that could help clear thousands of acres of dense, dry forests and brittle coastal brush. The bill's combination of cash and regulatory relief mark a major escalation in addressing what's been called the new normal of fire danger for the state, far beyond what's been spent on immediate emergency responses. Wildfires in California aren't going away, and we have to do everything possible to prevent them. The governor said in a written statement, "This bill is complex and requires investment, but is absolutely necessary." Negotiations over the details of the 112-page law dominated the state capitol during the final weeks of the legislative session. The proposal's fine points emerged just hours before the final vote on August 31st, while many lawmakers found parts of the proposal unpalatable. That's a good word. Few were willing to be seen as not having done anything they could protect the lives, everything they could to protect the lives and property of their constituents. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.